So, did you have any questions about what actually happened in the play, like plot wise? Everyone's pretty secure on that front.
Wait, I do have a question about the um how the war plays out in the play.
Yeah, it's all off scene, right? And every time
Yeah.
it says something like, what is the word that it uses? It says that there's some kind of noise off screen. That's sort of the war going on. So, like, there's a scene where Edgar is talking to his father, Gloucester, and he's like, "Oh, you wait right here. I'm gonna go out and, like, figure out this war. I'm gonna go out and like fight with the war." It says, oh, that's what it is, alarum and retreat within. So it's all being done off screen. Usually people will do it with like noise, and you see as like different characters sort of come into the room. It's supposed to be these like kind of pauses in the battle. So what happens is that Albany continues to fight for England with Regan and Goneril, and England conquers France. So Cordelia and Lear have been captured at the end of this play. But Regan and Goneril, Regan is poisoned to death, and then Goneril kills herself. And so Albany is the only one left as a kind of ruler in England after everybody dies, right? And he just says, you know what, Kent and Edgar, you take this one. You guys are now in charge. So France is defeated at the end. Lear and Cordelia are captured. Edmund says, kill Cordelia, make it seem like she hung herself, so that we just don't even have to worry about this transfer of power anymore. But then Edmund is killed. Does that answer your question? It's
Yeah.
very abrupt.
So then Edmund, he plotted with France for the invasion, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else have a question? Okay. All right. So there's one thing though that like lots of people have questions about, not just students, but like scholars have questions about, which is what happened to the fool. He's suddenly off screen, and nobody, I always say off screen because I'm just talking about films. He's off stage and nobody like knows sort of what ended up happening to him. There is one line that people think they might know, which is at the very end of the play, line 369. Lear, and we're going to talk about the speech quite a lot, but Lear is kind of cradling Cordelia in his arms, right? And he says, and my poor fool is hanged. So people have questions there because he could be referring to the person who was actually in his arms. The fool is hanged, right? Cordelia was hanged. So it's kind of makes sense that he is referring to Cordelia as a fool here, but there's also a fool in the play. So some people have interpreted that to be that the fool also has been hanged, but there really is not an answer to that question. The fool disappears and it's unclear what happens to the fool. We can kind of like look on the optimistic side of things and say, oh, the fool's fine, he escaped, or we think about maybe a more realistic version of events and the fool is dead like everybody else at the end of this thing. What did you guys think of the ending of Lear, or just Lear in general? What were you talking about in your groups? Your thoughts on the play? You can again like do this, and I'll see you. I can see you all on my screen right now. Jaden.
I think this was my favorite Shakespeare I read, but I think it's just because I understood this one more than I've understood other Shakespeare in the past, and it's been hard to enjoy something I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I liked it.
Okay, cool. So maybe the act of like reading it slowly or reading it with like help as we go along and like talk about things can help you enjoy it more. I totally agree. It's really hard to go to a Shakespeare performance blind, just going into it not knowing the story, and you're really struggling just to figure out what's going on. I also think Lear has a pretty clear plot. Like the middle sections are tough with the craziness going on, but it's pretty easy to follow what is happening to Lear as it goes on. So I think that is helpful too. Is there any other thoughts on this play? What do you think of the ending? Oh, Ella.
I was gonna ask you, do you think that the ending kind of contributes to like a nihilistic viewpoint?
That's a huge question, and that's what we're going to be trying to tackle today. Does the
Mhm.
ending say, in the end, we all died? There was no meaning to life. There was no meaning to any of this, and Edgar and Kent just get the kingdom anyway. So, what was the point? Or does the ending offer some kind of redemption for Lear, and that then the meaning in his death is the character arc, the way that he maybe learned a lesson over time or something? And it's up for debate.
Cool, thank you.
Brooklyn, let's see your dog. Oh
This is
my god,
Lilo.
what's his name?
It's Lilo.
Lilo, I love it. Anybody else have a pet nearby they can show me? Kylie, oh, what's the kitty's name? Oh no, I can't hear you.
Ansley.
Ansley.
Yeah.
I love the pet.
Eat the candle.
Anybody else? Okay, when you see a pet come in, go ahead and show me, because it'll break up what is a very depressing ending to Lear. Maybe that's inappropriate. Maybe we should just sort of wallow in the sadness, but let's talk about the ending of this thing. So Ella brought up a central concern to this play. Does this play propose some kind of ultimate meaning to life? Or does this play take down all of the meanings that we thought we knew about? Does it take down religious understanding of the world? Does it take down a power hierarchy understanding of the world? Does it take down family relationships and how we understand those, and just leave us with nothing at the end? Or is there something valuable in the fact that we have nothing at the end? So I'm going to share my whiteboard. And I'm going to make it so I can see you guys still. Everybody?
Do we need to be having a Google Doc open again?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. As you're listening to the lecture, I'm going to be writing a lot of stuff, especially on this whiteboard. The ending of King Lear is complicated. So as I'm doing that, take some notes on a Google Doc and I'll have you submit that at the end of class for some points. All right, so the first thing we need to talk about is a literary term called a motif. Motif comes from the French word, which means pattern. And that's exactly what it is. A motif is a symbolic image or idea that appears frequently in the story. So it can be a symbol, it can be a word, it can be an image, it can be an idea. Really, it is anything that repeats over the course of a story. So for example, for those of you who have read To Kill a Mockingbird, that tree out front of Scout's house where she hides little things in the hole in the tree, and that Boo Radley will hide little things or whatever, that's a motif in the story. It's a symbol that keeps reappearing over and over again. And there are so many motifs, not just in Lear, in all Shakespeare. He almost operates on the level of motifs. What are some of the motifs that appear in the story? I'm going to just throw one out here. I'm going to say ungrateful and deceitful children. Deceit. Oh boy, I can't write that word. That is one motif that happens over and over again. What are some other motifs? Actually, let's do this so that everybody can kind of just add what they think in the chat box. Write down what are some of the other motifs that you see in the play, and I will write them as you write them. Yes, blindness and eyes, and the word eyes. A lack of self-perception. I'm going to put that as a third. All right, loyalty, divinity, authority. All right, over here, old age. nature and retreat. I'm going to do those as separate ones. Foolishness, saying nothing at all, so silence. I'm going to do foolishness and silence. Wise and kind people as fools. I think I'm going to leave that as foolishness, a perception of truth. So it's a perception issue again, but I'm going to put it up here. Perception of truth. Okay, let me see what I have to add to these. Going mad. Whether that is in disguise or in truth. There is also, someone said this, but I don't know. Oh yeah, old age. Old age is over there. Okay, good. Getting old. Nakedness is a motif, right? Because Edgar strips down to just a loincloth. Lear strips down and is covered in like nature, you know, but he is quite naked, if not all the way naked. We've got disownment. I didn't write that right, but you know what I mean. Disownment is a motif there. We have letters as a motif, like false letters usually. And then we've got flattery as a motif. It's not just Regan and Goneril who flatter, it's also Edmund flattering the women. That's one of those plot points that's kind of fun to talk about, that Edmund is like weighing which sister he's going to end up with, and Regan and Goneril are basically fighting over Edmund, and they both say some very crude things. If you're like fluent in Shakespeareese, they say some really crude stuff to Edmund and about Edmund wanting to get Edmund in their beds. Loyalty, I want to put over here that there is also this idea of service. Okay, I think that is all of the motifs that I've seen. But what's really important to see here is that all of these motifs do not just occur in one storyline, right? In all of them, there are the three storylines, the one with Gloucester, the one with the sisters, and the one with Lear, and these motifs repeat in all of them. And like if you were to look up, for example, the word nature in the play, you're going to see it I've done it before. It's over 20 times that word nature is repeated in the play, quite a lot. So he's definitely interested in the way that repetition creates certain understanding of the world. And as you go later in the play, we're going to be talking about this, he starts to repeat words. Lear says, kill, 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 no, 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 never, never, never. So the idea that like our concerns in life become repeated in language starts to become really important at the end of this. Okay, did you get the motifs written down in your notes? Does anyone need more time for that? Raise your hand if you need more time to write those down in your notes. Okay, I'm gonna give you a second to just make sure that you get all those motifs written down because it's gonna become important later. And then if you're just waiting, go to page 141 of your Lears. This is in Act 3, Scene 4, line 106 or so. Okay, I'm going to clear this board. Take a screenshot if you're still behind. All right, clear. Okay, there is one line, I think I mentioned this last time, I can't remember between the two classes, but there is one line that is probably the most quoted line of Lear, and it is where most Shakespeare scholars will find the central meaning of Lear. If they were to say what is the like most important theme to understand about this play, they will point us to this line. So in this scene, Lear is talking to Edgar. Edgar is in disguise as poor Tom, and Edgar is basically just saying that he's talking about how he drank too much, that he committed adultery, that he gambled. Basically, he's saying that all of his sins have led him to become a beggar. And Lear responds, "Thou wert better in a grave than to answer with thy uncovered body this extremity of the skies." So it is better to be dead right now, Edgar, than to have to go out into this storm. He says, "Is man no more than this? Consider him well." So think about man for a second. "You owest the worm no silk, the beast no hide, the sheep no wool, the cat no perfume. Ha! Here's three on us are sophisticated." Here is where the really important quote happens. He says, "Thou art the thing itself." Unaccommodated man is no more but such a poor, bare, forked animal as thou art. That's the quotation that gets the very most quoted from this play. So let's think about what it means. Raise your hand and tell me in your own words what that line means about humans. Kylie?
I said that it's kind of if if someone's already doing something, you don't owe them something in return. Like
Okay.
like with the cat and the wool and perfume and stuff. I said that sheep are already gonna give wool. Cats already smell good. It's not like you have to give that back.
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
your nature, human nature, is such that you don't basically you don't have responsibilities. Okay. Tell me someone else. What does that quotation mean in your own words?
I think that it means kind of that humans are innately nothing more than these debased creatures, kind of what they are when they're stripped of all their material wealth and opulence, and even in poor Tom's case, clothes and things like that.
Yes, exactly. So they are, when we take everything away from a human being, all of the trappings of a human being, you are merely an animal. I want you guys to Google search for the definition of accommodated. Not unaccommodated, accommodated. I'm going to make sure I got all the definitions in front of me. Look it up in the Merriam-Webster definition. It's longer there. Okay, what are the parts of the definition that you think could be important to understand what an unaccommodated man would be? When you provide accommodations for somebody, what are you doing? Brooklyn?
There's one definition that says you make room for
Okay, good.
them. So I like that that when it says unaccommodated, nature doesn't have to make room for them or doesn't carve out a space for them. They're kind of on their own.
Okay, so no, nature has no obligations then to humanity, right? A lot of times we think of the human as, because, you know, top of the food chain or whatever, the human has been selected or created by God to rule over nature, right? And that's the way that Lear has seen himself. He feels like he can call to the gods and that they will obey him, or that the things that he says are in line with a pagan version of divinity. And here he's saying, no, actually humans are unaccommodated, which means that gods have not made a special place for human beings. They are kind of on the same level. And to use that same word that Edmund used earlier in the play, they're on that base level with the animals. Anything else that you saw that was interesting about what it means to make accommodations? Jaden?
One of them says to make fit, suitable, or congruous, which I think is interesting.
Make congruous or fit or suitable. How does that, do you think, fit in with what we're talking about here with unaccommodated man then?
I think it can fit in because they don't have to change themselves to fit into nature. They can just be who they are unapologetically, whereas when they fit into society, they kind of have to alter or adapt themselves to better fit into what society wants them to be.
Okay, good. So an unaccommodated man is somebody who has not adapted themselves then to the trappings of the world too, right? So it's like they haven't pretended to be something they aren't then. They are now. To be unaccommodated, it means that you're not congruous with the human world anymore. Anything else that you want to say about accommodations? Okay, so if we were to kind of go back to Sam's definition here, unaccommodated man is stripped. So unaccommodated man is stripped of all of their fancy ideas. They're stripped of all of their, we'd say, meta narratives about the world. So this idea that you create, usually, you know, as an individual, you create to make sense of your world, whether that's through faith, whether that's through intelligence and rationality, whether it's through politics, whatever kind of way that you make sense of the world. Unaccommodated man is stripped of those things. And when you're stripped of those things, you are down to what is your essential form. So it's this seems to be kind of like a potentially cynical way of looking at humanity. Let's think about all of the things, though, that have made Lear unaccommodated. When we talk about Lear being stripped, we talk about him losing things. What has Lear lost over the course of this play? Write it into the chat box. What has Lear lost? And not just at this point, throughout the entire play, what does Lear lose? His authority, his daughter, his power, authority and power. His, I'm going to put daughters because he loses all three of them. His trust, absolutely. His self-identity, his kingdom, all respect. Anything else that he loses? His mind, thank you. What happens to his clothing? Right? Anything else physical that he actually loses? Because we have these like great kind of complicated ideas, but I think there's something even more basic that he loses too. I mean, there's lots of things basic that he loses. I'm gonna wait a second just to see if you guys can type there. Okay, good. His youth and his health and his knights, yes, and servants. He loses his house. And with that shelter, he loses his safety. He loses his faith. I think that's really important. He realizes about halfway through Act 3 that he can't call on the heavens anymore, that his sense of divinity has been crushed. And at the end, ultimately, he loses his life. Right? So look at that, 15 things that we identified that over the course of this play are stripped away from Lear. And I want to come back to this idea, but before we come back to it, I want you also to look up the word divestment and investment. So let's have half the room. I'm going to do it this way. Emberly, Angelina, Jaden, Kylie Payne, and Ella, you guys look up the word divestment. Make sure to do the Merriam-Webster version, not just the Google version. And then the other half of the room, which is Kylie Sanderson, Sam, Allie Rose, and Brooklyn, you guys look up the word investment. And I want you to write down what's important about the definition in the chat box, because there's multiple versions of the definition. So you guys are writing at least the part of the definition that you think is most important in the chat box. Good place to put this. Okay, awesome. And you investment people, let's get some from you too. Okay, good. Investment then, profit, gain, income, especially this is about money then. We lost somebody. Oh, we lost Brooklyn. Hopefully she can come back. Covering or adorning. Okay, I think this is a really good place to start from. So thinking about these definitions of the word, which I've put up here on the chat box, why as human beings do we invest in things? What are some examples of us investing in things? You can just raise your hand and tell me what your thoughts are. Jaden?
We invest in the stock market.
Okay, good. So it's really important for us to make this kind of money, right? And investing in the stock market, what's that? I mean, I haven't done it. Have you done it? Are you a stock? Do we have anybody who's invested? I have a 401k, but other than that, not really. But like, why do we do that? Because it's a gamble, right? To invest in the stock market. Why do we do that? What are we hoping from that?
We're hoping to make more money.
Yeah, okay, good. So it's a kind of gamble, right? And we're hoping that we can turn those $2 signs into $3 signs with minimal work. That's part of what investing is. You sacrifice something at the beginning, right? And you're hoping that through that sacrifice, you're going to gain. Wait, Brooklyn is here. Who did we lose? Kylie, Sanderson? Okay, Kylie Payne's still here. All right, sorry. So we're investing with something, we're investing with like kind of not a sacrifice, but a chance, right, at the beginning of this, in these hopes that it's going to gain. And I think what's really important here is that we're hoping that it gains profit, but an investment is not necessarily a secure gain. You're hoping it is, though, right? Okay, tell me about this idea of covering. Who wrote that idea of covering in the chat box? Sam, what does that mean for investment?
So I just looked at the Merriam-Webster definition, and one of the kind of the second iteration of it, it's a little more archaic, but it can refer to an, I believe it's investiture,
Yes.
where basically, yeah, it's something that covers oneself or adorns them in that sense. And, you know, I suppose the applicability of that to King Lear is rather obvious, especially with his monarchical nature.
Yeah, good. And covering also suggests a kind of, not deceitfully, I don't want to say that, but covering up something means that there is something underneath it, right, that is more true, maybe more base. So if we're talking about this, the accommodation part, the investment is the way that you are accommodating, right? Now tell me, you divestment people. Do you think, so all of these seem negative. It's removal of possession, it's a removal of a title, it's a taking something away, it's an undressing. Do you think there can be value in divesting? Have you ever divested in something and it has ended up being the right choice? And if so, can you tell me about it? Yeah, Amberly.
Well, kind of with the stock market example, a lot of times when people have an investment that looks kind of risky, they'll take away the investment, and that takes away their risk factor, and sometimes that helps them keep money. So
Okay,
it can actually be of a way, like, to protect yourself.
Okay, so it could be about maintaining what you have, right? Have you ever divested? Oh yeah, Allie Rose.
Well, I think because you can like really invest in life by like focusing on school and focusing like on your future and investing in your future. If you do that too much, I think that's like really bad and like super unhealthy. So divesting in like your focus and reallocating that into a place that you can get more out of, I think that's good.
Good. If you're invested in too many different things, then you need to divest in some in order to focus on the things that maybe really matter to you and your character, right? Kind of like narrowing down your investments might help you understand yourself more. We said that he's losing his self-identity, right? Maybe divesting will actually help him gain that self-identity back, but just in a different, maybe more honest way, a way that is not necessarily covering something up. Have you ever divested in friendships? Yeah, me too. Either because it's unhealthy or because I just wasn't interested anymore, right? Or because that person moves away and it was dividing my attention too much. A lot of times we talk about why divestment might be a good thing. The beginning of Lear is talking about an instance of divestment. Lear is giving away the kingdom, right? He's undressing metaphorically. Later on, he'll undress literally, but he is removing his possessions and titles and trying to give them to 3 other people. And he sees this at the beginning of the play as a kind of investment. We see it, maybe Kent sees it, and we see it as a divestment because here he is giving away his title, right? But through the first half of this play, Lear really doesn't get what that means. Like, he still thinks he's the king. Like, he thinks that I'm giving you these things so that you will be the most loyal daughter to me. I'm investing in you so that I can maintain my authority through you. The daughters don't see it that way. The daughters are like, you gave it up. You divested, right? And now it's our turn to rule the kingdom. You can go, you know, we'll mother you all you want, but you're not king anymore. And it takes Lear a lot of time to figure out that is what is happening to him. And by the end of this play, we are left trying to figure out if the fool is right and Lear was foolish for giving away his kingdom, for divesting, or by the end of this play, we have to figure out if there is value in divestment. And that's kind of the central question for this play. I'm going to erase this board. Is anyone, freak out if that's not okay with you? Okay, cool. So there's a guy named Kurt Vonnegut. Has anybody ever read Kurt Vonnegut before? Ellie, do you like him? I was crazy about Kurt Vonnegut in high school. I actually think you guys would like Kurt Vonnegut. He's like this science fiction guy, but he mostly writes like humor books. They're funny but he's like kind of sassy. Anyway, he talks about we'll watch a video from him when we're talking about As I Lay Dying. But he talks about how plots work, and he's especially talking about Shakespeare. And he talks about how plots work in relation to life, and he says the truth is we know so little about life. We don't really know what the good news is and what the bad news is. So he talks about this in terms of structuring a plot and how an author seems to have in mind what is going to hurt their character and what's going to help their character. But in real life, when we go through our life and we just are experiencing our days, we really don't know what the good news is and what the bad news is and what the good events are and the bad events are until we look back. And that's why we have that phrase, like hindsight is 20/20, right? So Lear at the end of this play might look back and think, ooh, hindsight is 20/20, shouldn't have disowned Cordelia, or hindsight's 20/20, shouldn't have given up my kingdom at all before I died. But at the moment, he doesn't know what the good news is and what the bad news is. And that's part of what is hard about this play, is figuring out for the play itself, not just for the characters, but for the play, what was the good news and what was the bad news. So this gets back to the question that Ella was asking at the beginning. Is this play a play about how everything Lear did was bad news, about how he really didn't have any other options, and so in the end you are just going to die and life is going to suck? Or in the end, is this a play again about the value of divestment and what we can learn and what Lear learns himself through a process of divestment? And it does, it goes back to those Greek words that I talked about at the very beginning of class. So if these aren't in your notes, they can be in your notes now. One is peripeteia, and one is agnorisis. All right, peripeteia in Aristotle's view of the world, this is just a review of what we talked about before, is a reversal of fortune. When we're thinking about whether this play contains peripeteia, we are thinking about when the fates decided that Lear has bad luck, when it takes a turn for the worst for Lear. And Kent at the end, when he sees Cordelia in Lear's arms, he says, "Man, you have the worst luck." That's his response to it. "You just have the worst luck, dude. If there's good luck and there's bad luck, you always have the bad luck." And so there's these moments of peripeteia in the play when we're thinking, do the fates ultimately control our actions? Is life just a matter of good luck and bad luck? And at the end, if you had bad luck, sorry, you died, nihilism wins, right? Or is this a play mostly about agnorisis, which is about recognition? When you recognize you don't have full control, but that your move from ignorance to knowledge is going to allow you to kind of like see the world better. And whether that means you see the world that in a way that is better for yourself, or you see the world in a way that is just going to be more accurate, that's kind of what agnorisis is. So when we look back on this question, we're trying to decide, is this play about random reversals of fortune, or is this play about learning something and having a reversal in the way that you think about something, or a recognition in the way that you think about something? And I think it tackles this question with this word that I have been having you track from the very beginning, this word nothing. It's all over the play. From the very beginning when Cordelia says nothing to the very end, and I'm kind of pushing it here a little bit. I recognize that this is a bit of a stretch, but at the end when Lear in his last speech is saying no, 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 never, 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 this is a kind of reiteration of that word nothing again. So what I want you to do is I'm going to put you in breakout rooms again. Let me write down the instructions in the chat box, and then I'll have you guys take a screenshot of the instructions, because when you get put into the breakout rooms, you lose the chat room. So number one, you are going to find at least 5 instances of the word nothing in the play. There are PDFs of this play all over the place. If you just Google King Lear PDF, you could do a Control F and find instances of the word nothing if you haven't been highlighting. That's just a little trick. Okay, number 2, you need to describe the use of each word, each instance, right? So how does the meaning of the word change? Who is advocating for the word, like who is advocating for nothing? Does the word have a positive or negative weight in the instance? So is nothing used as a positive or negative there? Number 3, I want you to look at what is the value of nothing, and I'm going to write it weird here, just to like think about nothing as maybe broken up no thing. What is the value of no thing in that instance? And then what would you say is the significance of this motif in the play as a whole? How does it support a theme? Okay, so what you're going to do then is you're going to find 5 instances. You know what? I'm going to change this. 3 instances. Find 3 instances. Try and do it one from the beginning, one from the middle, one from the end, because we don't have enough time to do 5. Then you're going to think about what its meaning is in that instance, why it's an important use of the word right there. And then you're going to think about that overall, think about the word nothing, not just in that instance, but overall, think about the significance to the themes of the play. All right, thumbs if you're understanding or not at all. Wonderful. Okay, just got to check with you guys because you guys are my guinea pig class the first time I teach this stuff. Tomorrow I don't worry about them as much. All right, so you guys, I'm going to give you 15 minutes. Class ends at 8:50, and I want to give us 5 minutes at the end. But I'm going to give you 15 minutes to discuss this with each other, and I'll notice what you guys are saying because you'll be typing this stuff up in your notes together as a group. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Let me get the breakout groups going then. Stop share. So make sure that you take a screen grab of the chat so that you know what the questions are before you leave for your breakout room. I am actually going to recreate the rooms again because I'm going to put fewer people, 3 participants in each room, and then I will set you on your way. I could stop this recording, Ella. I'm assuming Ella Harris is the only one watching this, but you'll just need to scroll. I hope I haven't been doing anything weird while it's been recording. Yeah, you'll just need to scroll to when I talk again so that you get the announcements at the end of class. Hello. Okay, everyone will be back here. All right. It looks like I kind of cut you off for some of you. How many instances of the word were you able to discuss? Just 2, 3, all three? All three. Okay. Just one for that group? Okay, cool. All right. So I don't feel like we're done with Lear. I want to actually talk about these instances of the word never with you and get to how it like would then create a theme. So let me show you my screen for the schedule that I am going to hold us to. So your paper schedules they're going to change. I'm going to have to redo them for us. But so basically this was today's class, November 18th, 19th. Here's where the class recording for today will go. You do not need to worry about that, except for you are going to submit your notes to this assignment. So that way I can give you like credit for participating today. In fact, I'll give you 5 points just for your notes on Canvas.
Were we supposed to do that last time? Because
no. No, last time we didn't get to what I needed to get to, so it didn't work that way. Okay, so that was the module for today. Over the weekend, you're going to write a timed essay about King Lear. You can have the play open on your desk for this one, but I would say, in fact, I'm going to change that. I don't want you to have the play open on your desk. I want you to write this without the reference, because you'll get bogged down in looking for quotations, and on the actual AP test, these style of essays, you won't be able to have the actual text in front of you as a reference. So that's what we do over the break. I originally had us writing a King Lear like essay, like a long one. I'm not doing that. So that's on the schedule. That one, cross that one off. I just want you to do this timed version. So it's a 45-minute essay. Okay, and then on November 23rd and 24th, instead of going into As I Lay Dying, I want to just keep talking about Lear for one more class period, and then we might get into the Faulkner at the end of that class period. I'll like introduce As I Lay Dying to you. So then everything will be kind of off moving forward with like with our paper schedule, and I'll recreate that. Okay, one more thing. Up here I had this homework King Lear major works. Did anybody do that for today? You guys are amazing. The ones of you that did that, now you don't have to worry about that. For those of you who did not do it, I want you just to get that done before Thanksgiving break. So this is like, it is entirely for your purposes. It's to help you study at the end of the year when you're about to take that test and you're trying to remember everything that happens in Lear. So if you get that done and turn it in before the 24th, like 24th by midnight, then I'm good with that. Okay, does anyone have any questions about class business type stuff? Okay, over this long weekend, it's not that long, but over the weekend, don't forget what you guys were saying about the word nothing, because we're going to meet back and I'm going to have the group sort of report back to me about what they were thinking. So, but other than that, we are done for today. Let me stop the share.